Powered by Riverside FM.
Powered by Riverside.
Welcome to Unconventional Playbook. Glad to have you in. Beautiful day outside. As my boy Alan would say, birds are chirping and stuff. This is a really good day to talk a little bit of college football. You got a lot of excitement coming out. You got the new college football game coming out by EA Sports, which is getting a lot of traction online. People are getting excited for that. Haven't had a college video game since 2004. And it seems like EA Sports, who does a really good job when they get focused and really want something to pan out, like they do with this college football game, they have done a meticulous job. Actually, it was supposed to be out last year, but they wanted to make sure that the game was right. So those of you that are pre-ordered, you'll get that thing on July 16th. And it's supposed to come out for everyone on July 19th. So everybody's waiting for that. So while we're on the subject of college football, a lot of different topics that we could talk about, but we're going to focus on my guys, the Ohio State Buckeyes. Those of you that know me know that I'm a big-time Ohio State fan. In terms of college football, it's Ohio State. For me, I grew up in Ohio, went to a lot of the Ohio State-Michigan games, and then my alma mater, the University of Minnesota. But today we're going to focus on the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes and Ryan Day have had the last couple of years, from Buckeye standards, tough years, rough years, great record, great regular season, dominant as always in the Big Ten. Ryan Day has done a fantastic job with the Ohio State program. Probably not the job that the masses would want him to do, because you know it's all about that team up north. It's all about that team up north, and then it's all about the national championship. So Ryan Day in those two categories have fell short, especially when he's following a guy like Urban Meyer, who never lost to Michigan. So I think that gives a little bit of fire to some of the heat that Ryan Day is taking, whether you think it's just or whether you think it's unjust. Ohio State fans, they want that team up north game, and then they want a national championship. Well, I think Ryan Day felt the heat. I think he felt the heat probably from some of the boosters, the alumni, some of the administration. You had some past players come out and be critical of him. Maurice Clarett, more specifically, talking about you got to get it done. And this is a guy that's won 90% of his games with Ohio State. But again, 3 losses to Michigan in a row. And then the real big-time gasoline on the fire is Michigan winning a national championship. And I think that put things into motion in terms of what Ohio State has done this offseason. It has been the most aggressive offseason that I've ever seen from an Ohio State team during the offseason. They've always gotten the recruits, the 5-star recruits. That's nothing different. But now you've got all of the NIL money. You've got the transfer portal being big. And what the Ohio State Buckeyes have done is incredible. I think it puts them in the driver's seat to win a national championship. Now, you still got to go out on the field and play. And I think it's a double-edged sword. I think the Ohio State fans, Buckeye Nation, is really happy with what Ryan Day and his staff has done. But just doing it is not enough. Like, this thing better pan out. Because on paper, the Ohio State Buckeyes look absolutely dominant. They look absolutely dominant. So now if this thing doesn't pan out, that really puts Ryan Day on the hot seat. And there's going to be a lot of people in Buckeye Nation that feels like he might not be the guy to get the job done, even though he's an excellent coach. So everyone's been asking me, is it the team up north or bust for Ohio State Buckeyes? Well, he's got to win that game this year. They've lost their coach. They've lost several key players. And Ohio State, again, on paper, looks to be the better team. So Ryan Day, number one, he's got to win that game. If he doesn't win that game, he better still be able to make the playoffs. The playoffs have changed, 12-team playoffs now, and he better win the national championship. Because if he loses the game against the team up north and he falls short of a national championship, I don't even care if he gets to the national championship game. If he loses to the team up north, he's got to win a natty to save his job. How are you going to fire a coach that just won the national championship? But if he loses to the team up north, and if he comes up short again in the playoffs, I think this is it for Ryan Day. And whether you think that's just or not, it's just the way it is with certain jobs, and Ohio State is just one of those jobs, especially when he's following a legend that got the job done like Urban Meyer. When you keep coming up short, it just continues to leave a bad taste in your mouth, and it affects boosters, it affects who wants to donate, it affects alumni. You already got alumni speaking out on their season last year. But let's talk about what Ohio State did. Number one, I thought the big problem last year was their quarterback. And I know there's been a lot of people that have been trying to sell Kyle McCord. It wasn't his fault. I knew when I saw him come in sparingly as a backup and watch the spring game that he wasn't the guy. Just giving it the eye test. You know, there are certain personalities, and this has really nothing to do with talent, because I'm sure Kyle McCord is a talented individual. I think he's going to show that talent, being that he transferred to Syracuse. At Syracuse, I think he's going to have a pretty good year. He's just not meant to play at the level of Ohio State and the Alabamas and schools like that. Like sometimes you have these athletes that just don't want that heat. They just don't want that pressure. And Kyle McCord is one of those guys where I just didn't think he wanted that. In those moments, you have to perform. And so now he's at a good, comfortable place like Syracuse where there's expectations in their inner circle, but yet there's no expectations. So I think he will flourish there. No pressure for Kyle McCord. He will flourish there. Not made for the Buckeyes. So the Buckeyes went out, and once Kyle McCord left, there was a lot of speculation of who was going to be the next Buckeye quarterback. And they went out and they got my guy, Will Howard. And he was the number 7th ranked quarterback out of all of the quarterbacks that were in the transfer portal. But rankings don't matter. Rankings are a matter of somebody else's opinion. What you have now in your locker room with Will Howard is a man. You've got a mature quarterback that has been through the wars, playing for Kansas State in the Big 12, performed at a high level, and galvanized that program. Now he's stepping in to a program with a lot of weapons. Arguably the best backfield in football, arguably one of the best wide receiving corps. Will Howard can sling the football. He can sling it. And he's a little bit more mobile than most people give him credit for. He's way more mobile than Kyle McCord. And I've heard comparisons. Well, he's just Kyle McCord 2.0. Anybody that says that just don't watch football. Because if you look at the film, he's nowhere near Kyle McCord. Two different players. His brain is a little bit different. His arm is better, decision-making is better, and he's more mobile. And he's got a little bit of dog in him. So for those of you that are making that comparison, that there is no comparison, man. I mean, cut that out. Cut that out. And I know a lot of people have been wanting the young bucks to possibly come up and take that starting quarterback job. You don't bring Will Howard in with the expectation that he's not going to start. Now, I know you're going to hear the verbiage, oh, well, this is a competition and all that good. All that stuff is good. But when you have a senior transfer into your program, there has to be this expectation that this person can help you now, which Will Howard can, and he's going to get every opportunity to be the starting quarterback for the Buckeyes. And in my opinion, he should be the starting quarterback from the Buckeyes until he plays himself out of that position. Now, along with that quarterback room, oh my gosh, they got Julian, 5-star quarterback from Alabama. Came in early as a freshman to Alabama last year. Graduated early, got there in the spring. Of course, you heard the news that Nick Saban retired. And so that changed everything for Julian. Entered the portal, chose Ohio State. That's your quarterback room right there, 1-2. Along with that, they bring in another stud, Air Nolan, one of the top prospects at quarterback. Added to your quarterback room. Boom, 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 1, 2, 3. So Ohio State's quarterback room, without a doubt, from top to bottom, seniors to freshmen, best quarterback room in the country. Now, I don't know how all that's going to pan out, but it's a hell of a competition. I'm just saying, I don't want to see any of those young guys yet. I want to see Will Howard this year take this team and lead this team. That's who it should be. And after that, it's going to be a battle between Julian Sayin and Air Nolan. And for what I'm hearing right now, Julian Sayin is looking pretty good. I mean, there are some people that are saying he should start the year as the Buckeyes starter. I don't think he can do that. Unless there is a big gap between Julian Sayin and Will Howard, I'm going with Will Howard. If there's not that gap. But if Julian Sayin is looking that good, I'll listen. But I hope it's just not hype. Will Howard is here for a reason. Give him the ball. Let him lead this team. Now, along with the quarterback room, they bring in Quinshawn Judkins. Transfer from Ole Miss. If I'm not mistaken, led the SEC in rushing yards last year, dynamic running back to already go with our dynamic backfield at Ohio State. What a great addition that is. So now that's going to bolster Ohio State's running game. It's unbelievable. Like, you're talking about a kid. The one thing I like about the kid is he doesn't mind competition. You would think he would transfer somewhere where he can get way more rushes than he's probably going to get at Ohio State. Being a throwing team and the running backs that we have, the incoming running backs that we have, anyway. So he's sacrificing a little bit to come be a part of something that's really special. That's on the offensive side of the ball. Quarterbacks, running back. Talk about the defensive side of the ball. Caleb Downs, what? Caleb Downs, one of the best freshman defensive backs in the nation last year for Alabama as a freshman. Generational talent. Nick Saban decided to go. Hey, Caleb Downs said, I'm in the portal. Ended up at Ohio State. Already enhances and bolsters a really good defense. Ohio State's defense, top 5 in the country this year, easy, if not the best. This offseason has been absolutely fantastic, man. If you're an Ohio State fan, you have to be excited about what the Buckeyes are doing. Caleb Downs in the defensive backfield. If any of you watched the spring game, that defense was so far ahead of the offense, it wasn't even funny, and they looked dominant. And over the years, Ryan Day had to make some tough decisions about his defensive staff, retooling it. And now the Buckeyes defense is getting back to what it used to be when they were called the Silver Bullets. So here's the one thing I know. The verdict is probably still out on the offense a little bit, new quarterback, whatever, but the defense is going to be legit. Get ready for that. Then they brought in Seth McLaughlin. Woo! 4-star center, prospect, another stud from Alabama to bolster that offensive line. Look at the moves that Ohio State is making. Man, it's national championship or bust. And you got to win that game up north. Then you have a 3-star tight end transferred from Ohio to Ohio State, Will Kazmarek. Studs, man, all over the place. Caleb Downs, Julian Sand, Quinshawn Judkins, Will Howard, Seth McLaughlin. I'm not even spending a whole lot of time on the freshmen that they brought in. Top 5 recruiting class, bolstered by Air Nolan. Ohio State's going to be legit. And really, they lose a stud wide receiver in Marvin Harrison, and then they lose Julian Fleming, who never really panned out as a Buckeye. I mean, he had some moments, but he hasn't been the stud that they thought he was going to be, so he transfers to Penn State because there's just no room in the Ohio State wide receiver room. There's just no room for him. You can't be mediocre. So he goes to Penn State where he has more of an opportunity. Kyle McCord, as I mentioned, transferred to Syracuse. Again, there's just no room in our quarterback room for Kyle McCord. His standard of play is not what we are used to at Ohio State. And I'm not one of these guys that's going to dog Kyle McCord. He just wasn't good enough for Ohio State. And I wish him the best at Syracuse because I'm telling you, man, he is going to put up great numbers at Syracuse. But it's the perfect environment for him because Syracuse, they're alumni and anybody that's affiliated with the program is never going to admit it, but they're not winning a national championship and they have no expectations to win a national championship. They have no expectations to do really anything in terms of going far in the college football playoffs. It is a nice, comfortable spot for Kyle McCord. No pressure. No pressure at all. So I am looking forward to Ohio State football. For Ohio State fans, I think this is going to be one of the most dominant seasons that you have ever seen from the Buckeyes. And I think that was spurred on by the team up north winning a national championship. And now what you are going to see, and you can book this, I think it's going to be the beginning of a dynasty. But it all comes down to, as much as I've said, this is going to be a dynasty, it boils down to 2 things. The game with the team up north, and can they win a national championship? If Ryan Day can pull this off, he's going to be the coach at Ohio State for a long time because the talent that's coming in there is just unbelievable. But if he loses that game to the team up north and doesn't bring home a national championship, Ryan Day's done this year. And it's just that simple. I mean, there's just that thin line, man. Isn't that funny? He accomplishes one of those 2 things this year. I think he's at Ohio State for a long time. If he comes up short national championship or loses to the team up north, he's gone. That's just where his job is right now. Man, am I looking forward to Ohio State freaking football this year. Those of you that like Ohio State, that listen to this podcast, hey, this is going to be the place to be. To tune in and get the news about Ohio State. Recaps every game. I'm going to give it to you straight. This is the UP, Unconventional Playbook. I don't know anything else. I don't know how else to do it but to give it to you straight. This is going to be fantastic. I can't wait. This has been Unconventional Playbook. Hit that like and subscribe button. We'll see you when we see you.
Powered by Riverside.